Discussions about climate change are usually focused on the future. But what about the future of our past? Our cultural heritage, the places and sites that tell the story of what we now call Illinois, is already vulnerable to things like flooding, erosion, and development. Climate change is likely to amplify each of these threats. Over 70,000 cultural sites have been recorded in Illinois. Given what we know about site densities in places that have been surveyed by archaeologists, there are hundreds of thousands more sites in Illinois that have yet to be recognized and recorded. These sites are tangible links to the past for indigenous peoples as well as those who forged their lives here after contact. Few of the archaeological sites in Illinois are protected. All of them are fragile. Climate scientists forecast that Illinois will experience more severe rainfall events, heat waves, and drought in the coming decades. The demographics of Illinois are also likely to change as people move away from areas that are more severely affected by climate change. These changes pose three main threats to our cultural heritage sites: more soil erosion, more flooding, and accelerated development around growing cities. The vast majority of archaeological sites in Illinois lie at or just below the ground surface. Over time, erosion, the wearing away of soil material by wind or water, can strip away the thin layers of soil that contain these sites. During severe rainfall events, erosional gullies and mass movements of soil can destroy entire sites. Even the largest cultural features are not immune. Monk's Mound, the largest earthen mound in North America, continues to be damaged by erosion. As layers of the mound become saturated with water during severe rains, large sections of the mound can fail and slump, an unfortunate situation that is likely to become more common as our climate continues to get warmer and wetter. The problem is perhaps less visible but no less serious for the hundreds of thousands of unprotected sites in Illinois' farm fields. About 80% of the sites in Illinois are in areas with high erosion potential. Most of these sites lie in agricultural fields with little protection from intense rainfall. The combination of periods of drought and heavy rainfall brought on by climate change is likely to speed up the damage. Dry fields stricken by drought will be more vulnerable to intense rainfall, especially as patterns of land use and vegetation cover continue to change in the future. These conditions will erase sites, suddenly or gradually, before they are ever documented. The second major threat is flooding. Illinois is bordered by the Wabash, Ohio, and Mississippi rivers. Numerous smaller rivers and streams drain the interior of the state. The Chicago metropolitan area hugs the shoreline of Lake Michigan. This is a landscape that is inherently vulnerable to flooding. Climate change is likely to make flooding worse, as intense rainfall events and increased erosion cause more water to enter our rivers, streams, and lakes. Stream channels respond to sudden bursts of water by downcutting the channel, widening the channel, changing the channel's path, or flooding beyond its banks. All of these responses can damage fragile cultural sites, which may be swept downstream or deeply buried by flood deposits. Standing structures that are located on or near riverbanks can also be severely damaged by flooding. Under current projections that take climate change into account, roughly a quarter of all historic districts will experience flooding every 5 years. Over 80% of districts are expected to flood during a 500-year flood event. Rural structures are particularly vulnerable to flooding in Illinois, but even structures in urban areas with some flood control infrastructure in place will be impacted by the most severe events. The third major threat is development related to the expansion of cities and towns. Development is the conversion of land in a natural or agricultural state into land that is useful for housing, businesses, or infrastructure. Cultural sites in the path of development and construction are at risk of being totally destroyed. Migration is a common response to climate change. People move from less hospitable to more hospitable areas. Much of this migration is internal, taking place within individual countries. Internal migration is likely to accelerate the expansion of cities and towns in Illinois as population growth in the United States shifts towards areas that are less vulnerable to threats like wildfires, coastal storms, extreme heat, and sea level rise. The population of Illinois roughly doubled between 1920 and 2020, and about 10% of the state's area was developed over that 100-year period. We estimate the last century of development impacted 65,000 to 105,000 cultural sites. Growth of just 1% annually over the next 80 years would more than double the population of Illinois again, from 12.7 million to 28 million people. Our models suggest that development associated with 1% growth would impact about 54,000 cultural sites by the year 2100. Higher growth rates, which are certainly possible if climate change drives population to the Midwest, would increase the damage. Most of the sites that will be impacted by development in the next century have yet to be recognized or documented. Current federal and state laws require archaeological work prior to development in some circumstances, but not others. Augmenting these laws with new approaches to site survey would allow us to identify and learn from more sites before they are destroyed. The prairies, fields, woodlands, river valleys, and cities of Illinois contain hundreds of thousands of cultural sites, from the camps of Ice Age foragers, to the grand cities of the Mississippian peoples, to the towns of the first Euro-Americans in the region. These irreplaceable sites tell the story of Illinois and its people in ways that history books cannot. The threats to cultural sites from both human and natural forces are likely to get worse as climate change unfolds. Protecting these sites and preserving them for the future will require not only planning and cooperation to confront the challenges presented by erosion, flooding, and development, but the vision and flexibility to identify additional threats, adapt to changing circumstances, and develop effective solutions. Cultural sites are irreplaceable archives of human experience. They help tell the stories of adaptation, resilience, and change that define Illinois' past. Together, we must work to document sites before they are lost, protect those that can be saved, and share the lessons that they hold. To learn more about how the Illinois State Archaeological Survey is addressing the challenges of climate change, visit our website or download a free copy of our climate document using the links in the description below.